So what do you think is the biggest obstacles to mindful eating for women?
Mm,
And also, how are you going to address this sort of topic, which I think is a really big one,
it's huge.
it's eating in women? Because
Yeah.
I'd love to hear about how you're going to work with it in the class.
You know, um, well, I'll address the first part first. Like because I work specifically with women around helping them love and heal and forgive, the issues that have caused them to harm themselves with food. And I think the biggest obstacle is uh, believing it's your fault. Believing that your struggles with food, and I'm saying you like generically rather than you specifically, but even just what you talked about in the beginning. Yeah, right. I know, right? Well, you're talking about like, not appreciating yourself or not respecting yourself or not being able to treat yourself well. And what I see in my work with my clients and my students is that so many women believe that their struggles with food mean that there's something wrong with them or that there's something bad about them. And I really know now with complete confidence, from working with women, from teaching this class, that that's not true. And that what is true is that there are things in the way. And that's different. I don't know if you can feel into that difference, like things being in the way versus something actually being wrong with you, right? Anything that's in the way can be moved out of the way. So, what are some of those things? Like why do we as women blame ourselves for our relationship with our food? Why do we think it's our fault? My feeling about that is that as women, we're vessels, right? In our teachings, like the feminine principle is about space. So as women, we tend to absorb, we tend to hold, we feel very deeply. And when there isn't like a clear seeing that goes along with that, then it just turns inward. And then that can create isolation, right? And then you become isolated. And then it's like, and then there's also like the rebel who kicks in. Well, who cares? I don't care how fat I get. I'm just going to eat this ice cream. Or, I don't care if it's bad for me. I'm going to eat it anyway. So that, to me, that whole self-blame piece is one whole big piece of what gets women in trouble with food. In the class, Mindful Eating, Joining Heaven and Earth at the Meal Table, I introduce a tool called tapping or emotional freedom techniques. It's a very simple self-help tool that actually I now call it brainwashing in the positive sense. So what it involves is just fingertip tapping at or near the ends of acupuncture meridians in the body. And what that tapping does is it downregulates and pacifies the part of the brain where the stress is stored. So it's a stress management technique. It's a stress, resolution technique. And one of the fun things we do in class, I've been doing this, I can't remember if we did this in your class, but I've been doing this where we get on a live call and everybody brings their trigger foods. So it's really kind of funny and fun to see people's chocolate bars and their mocha lattes and their potato chips and, everybody brings their food. And it's always kind of like, okay, here's my food, And then what I have them do is we all tap on the cravings for the food. Because those cravings are connected to the fight or flight response in the limbic system of the brain. So we do some tapping, even though I'm really craving this mocha latte, even though I really want to eat this, I want to drink this, whatever. And like by the end of the call, I mean, depending on people's experiences, sometimes people just throw it in the trash, or they look at that food and they're like, no, I don't really want it anymore, or whatever. So the tapping tool can be really, really helpful for diffusing not just the cravings, but that also that part of ourselves that tends to blame ourselves for what we struggle with. So that's just one thing. I mean, there are so many other factors involved. that cause women to struggle with food. I mean, we are, like I was just saying, we're in an intensely industrialized food system right now. And that's a whole other talk in itself. It has so many implications for our food choices and, our addictions and our struggles and on and on and on. So yeah, that's just like a little tip of the iceberg.